All right, so Lindsay Fellows, music supervisor for the Imitation Game. Talk a bit about what your job entails for the folks who may not know the nuances of what a music supervisor does.
Music supervisors, you have become, there was only a handful of them 15 years ago. Now there's a lot of them, but basically the job is to, whether it's TV or film or advertising, to bring the musical component to the picture, whatever that is. And that could entail original score, working with composers, finding songs, clearing songs, publishing, having new songs written for a project, putting together on-camera performances, those kinds of things. So depending on the project, you could start very early on at the script level, if there's music written into the script and somebody's performing, Zoe Deschanel singing on camera or whatever,
right,
to something as simple as all score and a great end credit, and you're trying to find a marketing partner to release the end credit tied to a soundtrack deal. So I kind of get involved, depending on the needs of the project, you get involved from beginning to end.
So let's talk about the needs of this specific project. When did you become involved with it?
They called me when they were in post, and they were in the director's cut stage, and that's always a very intense time because the director's trying to get his vision of the film out there. But the thing that really stood out for me in this project was the team involved was so spectacular. Billy Goldberg and Teddy and Morton were just so focused on the film, and I could just tell from the first cut I saw, it was one of the best first cuts of the film I've ever seen. So it was really exciting to come at that point going, wow, you've got something really special here. We're not fixing things, we're not doing that. We really just need to make the music propel the performances forward. And of course we had challenges with the source music, things like that we had to face, but when you're working with such great underlying content, it makes your job much more pleasurable.
Right. Now, in choosing these specific songs, where do you even start? I guess with this one, you start with the period for start.
Sure. Sure. You find the window, the period leading up to as late as you can go. But even for that time period, if it was 1940, they were probably listening to music from 1935 or 1937. So the challenge for this one was, could we find masters that were going to be of quality, right? Because a lot of that stuff was recorded in mono, and it just doesn't, frankly, sound very good, especially when you blow it up on a huge speaker system in a movie theater. So we had to, and then we didn't want lyrics, because lyrics would interfere with the dialogue, because all those scenes in those bars are really kind of important to show the relationship between Kira and Benedict and all the little nuances that were going on, and kind of to give the film some levity at certain times. But we also had, because they didn't dance to music, we had to find music and back into them dancing. Yeah. So we had to find tempo, and it just took a lot of time. But I have a lot of different, it's not beyond the majors, there's all the majors and the minors. There's some great production companies. I have guys that do custom records for me that really live and breathe replicating period music. And so we worked with the editor just to try to find the perfect pieces, and he was a taskmaster at finding those perfect pieces. As I said, he said to me this one time, I go, well, that's, I was telling her, that's pretty close. And he goes, no, we need perfect. I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So anyways, but they were great. They were very helpful, and we ended up covering, there's probably about 8 cues in there, the different scenes. And then we had stuff that we put in the film that we didn't end up using in the end, because Alexander decided to score it. So, and then working with him, he's brilliant. He's a genius. So,
can you elaborate on that a little bit? Do you come in before Alexander, or?
On this one, I came in before, and usually I come in before, because we'll be working with, I'll be working with the music editor and the director to temp the film with other score from other movies a lot of the time. Unless the director has a guy that's his composer who's available, that will start doing demos early on, and even that I would come in usually ahead of the composer to work with them to create the demos so that we can start cutting in and it starts to take shape. The Alexander wasn't initially available, so we had a time period issue where we were just going with temp and working with that. And then when it became available, it was a big scramble to find scoring dates and find musicians and how we're going to do this and everything else. But the good thing about that is that when a guy of his talent, as under the gun, I've worked with several of them, they love that. Right? They just dive in because decisions get made. And the worst thing you can have as a composer is to have 9 months, because everybody can change, decisions get changed and the picture keeps changing and you're not doing that. This was like, the movie's great, movie's done, go after it. And he totally delivered.
Right. Now, of course, you're also having to compete with sound effects.
Yes.
Dialogue comes in the mixing stage.
Yeah, and usually when it comes to Foley and those kind of things, those will come in a little bit earlier on, but they still may, when you get to the dub stage, all the words, everything,
Yeah.
and you've got to do, usually you're doing ADR right up to the day of the mix. You're doing ADR with all the actors because they're not available. So Morton had to go to Europe and do ADR with all these people and get that all cleaned up. And you're sending the digital files back. And once you hit the mix, those decisions are being made, by the director to say, music's going to lead here or sound design is going to lead here. And fortunately, as you could tell in that screening, it's one of the best mixed movies I've ever heard.
Right.
It's fantastic. I mean, nothing is lost. In fact, the music is actually pretty loud in this picture, and it's okay. It doesn't, I had just screened another film that I worked on at AFM this week, and I realized now how low our mix was of the music compared to this. This music is pushed. You're really working the emotion of the viewer, and they did an awesome job.
Right. And speaking of that, emotion, how does the emotion, thematic material of the piece affect the music that you choose? Put into the movie?
Well, in a perfect world, the score should not be that noticeable. In a perfect world, right? Because you want to just support what's already there. And I've worked on some bad films, not great films, and you're trying to really tell the audience, this is actually a funny moment when it's not, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you're trying to do that. But the great thing about this was that the performances were so strong that he was really just able to give it the weight and give it that support with the score. And on the source music that we used in all the different club scenes and that was really used to kind of just give a shift of gears, and humanize these guys a bit as they're so focused, the constant drama and the race that they were on to crack the code,
right,
versus now we're going to go have a beer, we're going to flirt with some girls and all those different things that go on with that. So the music, the big band music was really trying to put us in that period.
Mm-hmm. Was there a moment in the film, how do I phrase this, a moment musically that something had to be sacrificed, or something that you thought a moment that you thought would benefit from a choice of music, but something caused it to go out?
The only thing, we had discussed a little bit was, doing an end credit, because there's no songs in the movie.
Right.
And, if you had the perfect song and it was a perfect artist and, in a perfect world, all that stuff came together. And after, we let it go for various reasons. We didn't pursue it. But when I saw it again with fresh eyes, I was sitting there and I just realized, I go, you can't have a song here. There's just no way. You have to sit and kind of breathe in that moment and reflect on all the voiceover work and everything else that's happening at the end of the film. It really just made you stop and pause. And that would really be the only thing. And the other one of the more challenging cues, I think, was it was one of my favorite scenes is when children are being shipped off to go to the villages, because there's a bunch of different things happening there. It's the energy of Benedict going through the crowds, and you're dealing with all the crowd noise and people shouting, and you have to give it this pace and emotion. But you're talking about the war, so now you've got to get a war theme in there and at least hint at it,
right,
because that's going to pay off later during the bombing scenes, right? So that was a really challenging cue, and it's long. I mean, it goes probably 2.5 minutes in that one piece of music, and you've got to go through all these different emotions as he gets in the train and goes on the train. So
right,
that was a challenging piece there.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.